had trouble with my reading and writing.
I didn't really like it, so I didn't tend to do it a lot.
When I was in the classroom, I never participated in read aloud.
I never really focused on reading because I didn't really like it. So it was at the bottom on my list to do.
So sometimes it would make me mad.
Would it be like A, I felt stuck, B, maybe sad, C, sometimes super.
How I felt about LearnUP after my first class, I really enjoyed it.
It helps you read and it's fun.
Kind of gets fun.
It's hard at the beginning, but then it gets easier, and it's fun.
You would be able to do it just as good as anybody else, maybe even better.
Gives your children more of the world. LearnUP.
This is etymology in that particular video that you just saw. It's from a learning company out of the city of San Francisco called LearnUP. When I tell you they're doing such great work, and on today, I have their founder and CEO with us. He's going to share, and I want everyone to really listen and take down his information, learn about the program, get your kids involved in this, and let's really support him as he's helping our kids to learn and read. As we all know, reading is a foundation to everything in the world. And so without any further ado, I would like to introduce the CEO of LearnUP out of the city of San Francisco, California. His name is Steve Hagler. Here he comes. Come on in, Steve.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for having me.
And so as we start this wonderful interview session with you, the founder of LearnUP, what is the origins of this particular program that you have created for kids?
So LearnUP Centers is a nonprofit. We are based in San Francisco, and we're on a mission to teach all kids to read. And I was fortunate to meet the founder of this reading program, Steve Tatum, through a family whose kid was a friend of ours who was a fifth grader reading at the second grade level. And this family had all the resources in the world to teach the child to read. And when he got into fifth grade, he was still reading at second grade. And when he hit Steve at the Stern School, he became a reader in a year. He went from second grade to high school in a year. And the family was like, wait a second, what did you do to our kid? And they asked me to take a look at this program that Steve had created because I'm a former educator. I ran a dropout prevention program in San Francisco Unified. I've been around for a very long time. And I didn't believe what Steve told me. He said we could teach kids to read in about 80 hours, including kids with dyslexia and other learning differences. We can train people who are not reading specialists to teach our program to high fidelity so we don't have to have a BA to teach kids to read, because we don't need to have a BA to teach kids to read. We need to have really good reading tutors to teach kids to read. And we can train these young people to teach reading in about 30 or 40 hours. And I went, I don't believe any of that. I've been around education forever. I'm a veteran educator, and that's not possible. And so he said, let's set up a pilot. So the Rigos, who were the founding people whose kid was not able to read, they said, okay, we'll start a little foundation and help this go. And so we created a program. We piloted some students from the University of San Francisco to come and do it. And they said, we're going to pay you good money to come here. It's a good part-time job for a college college person. And we trained them, and sure enough, we put these young undergraduates in front of students, and they taught these kids to read. And I said, Steve, you got lucky. And so we've been getting lucky for the last 7 years. And what it is that we know how to teach kids to read. We have a great program. It's fast. We can teach a kid to read in about to get to independent reading level in about 60 to 80 hours. Now they got to go more. They got to learn more, but that's enough to get them into working on vocabulary and working on their background knowledge and their language knowledge, but the reading skills piece we can get done. And we can train anybody to do this work. So it offers us the opportunity to spread really strong reading pedagogy with a really strong training methodology with an approach that actually teaches kids to read of all backgrounds and learning styles.
I'm glad you mentioned a little bit about your history and education. Can you share a little bit more about your origins in the
Mine?
educational field?
Sure. So I have my credentialing was in San Francisco State, master's in education. I started teaching in the San Francisco Unified as a long-term sub, eventually got a position at Galileo High School back in the day. I was teaching English as a second language and liked it a lot, but did a lot of experientially based teaching of languages or English. And then I got into working in experiential education and started a program that took kids into the wilderness for 10 days because we thought that kids who were not doing well didn't have the grit and determination that they needed. And it's true, grit and determination is really important. The kids I was seeing had 1.2 GPAs. They had 90 days of absences in the semester prior coming to us. Basically, these children were on their dropout track. And we said, okay, we're going to put you in a program that's going to get you off campus, get you interested, have you do some hard things, go out in the wilderness for 10 days. You have to pack all your own food, got to pack it around the wilderness. You know, and these are urban kids who have not been very far from home. And we took them up into this High Sierra and down to the Ventana Wilderness. They ran a ropes course. We ran the first habitat restoration projects out at the Presidio National Park. We did a 3-week job shadow, anything to get kids going. And we had good success. We actually saw kids go back into the regular system and graduate. We saw kids go into training programs, get their GED, and we reduced the dropout rate. Awesome. Great program, 15 years. Fast forward, I left education, went into philanthropy, did some work in getting money into getting kids outdoors because that was my passion. And then this opportunity to work with the Rigos and start this foundation came along. And what I realized is I didn't know much about reading. I was a whole language person. I was all about personification of the pencil and those sorts of things. And when I got into understanding how we really learn to read, the neurology of reading, I went, oh my goodness, none of those students I worked with, they couldn't read. The reason they were in my program is because they didn't catch the reading when they were younger. They weren't on the academic track. They were on that other track. And that track leads to dropout. It leads to underemployment. It leads to incarceration. It leads to drug abuse. It is challenging if you're not put in that track by choice. You're put in that track by default, because if you can't read, accessing the classroom is difficult. It's not a thing you want to do because you can't do it. Really, you're asking them to do something they can't do. I want to tell you a quick story. When I think about this, I think about like the kindergarten classroom. When you see a circle of children in the kindergarten classroom, and they come in, they're 5 years old, and they go like, they're coming in, and everyone's really excited on their first day of kindergarten. And the kindergarten teacher says like, hey, who's going to learn to read this year? And every single hand shoots up. There's not a single child who's 5 years old doesn't think they're going to learn to read. They all think they're going to learn to read. And we know that by 3rd grade, 60% of our kids don't know how to read at grade level. And when you do that same circle in 3rd grade, those hands don't go up. And those kids begin to shut down, and they begin to disrupt because they don't want to read. They begin to distract because they don't want to be called on. And eventually in high school and beyond, they start to disappear. They're just not there anymore. And it all starts with reading. Reading is the only thing that goes through all the social outcomes for adults. It's the one red thread that we can say like, what's the correlation? It's a pretty hard correlation between being able to read at grade level and good outcomes. It doesn't mean they're going to be able to do everything, but it gives them the option to stay in it. And it gives them the option to make choices that make sense. They can stay on that academic pathway. Kids who can't read an instruction, kids who can't be in a circle helping their peers on something because they're embarrassed because they can't understand the instruction on the page. That's a kid who's going to shut down, going to distract, disrupt, disappear.
You mentioned something I heard when I was a kid. So I was pushed a certain way in education because of this particular knowledge, which is the tracks in public schools. Some people have never heard of that. And so they don't know that there's these 2 tracks from elementary school. So if you wouldn't mind, can you share about those 2 tracks and what grade where this funneling process starts with our kids?
Well, technically, we don't track anymore. I think schools don't track officially anymore. It's more of a default status. And so what ends up happening, if you can read, you're pushed forward. And if you can do the work and you show up and everyone says, oh, this child is very bright and capable of doing things, they're pushed into higher and higher academics. Whereas if you are